Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new episode of Data Analytics Podcast, where we dive deep into the latest in tech innovation. And today we are thrilled to have Sanchit Jain with us, an expert in data governance and cloud solution. Hello, Sanchit. Welcome to the show.
Hey Prerna, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me for the show and good morning and greeting for the day to all of my wonderful participants who are listening this podcast. Thank you for joining and tuning this podcast.
Yeah, great. Sanchit, can you explain why data governance is critical for organizations leveraging AWS?
Absolutely. I think a wonderful topic and a wonderful question in the time where we all are into the world of LLM and generative AI kind of stuff, right? Like why exactly the data governance has to be the part of it. So if we talk about generally the data governance as an overall concept, right? Even if you go back like in 90s or early 2000s, uh, people used to consume the data and drive data decisions, not to the scale what we saw in the explosion of the big data world, how it changed, but still people used to do it, right? Generally what happens is when you have this all kinds of different data, it becomes very important that you have some sort of a boundaries, some sort of a firewall drawn around this data. You cannot open this data to be consumed by anyone, right? As simple as, let's say you have your credit card, you have your credit card pin, you will give that pin to yourself or maybe the close to you with maybe your family or your wife, right? That's it. You're not going to give it to the entire world of it. So that is a very simple basic form of data security or data governance. Like data security has been implemented via data governance, like who should have what kind of accesses, which becomes very important when you're working in and out around the data. And we all know that today's world data is all around. So that's why it's very important for us that you have data governance. Now there are different forms, different shapes of data governance people can think about, but any organizations in each and every industries, you will see there is a data governance part of it. Now, in what strictness or what kind of complex thing data governance can be implied, it also been directly correlated with the compliance of that industry. But data governance, that's why it's very part and parcel of the life. Think about, you don't want your data to get compromised. So
Yeah.
that's the part of data governance.
Very well explained, Sanchit. So now, as we know that the field of cloud technology evolves rapidly, then how should companies approach integrating AWS into their data governance strategies?
Absolutely. I would say it's like Spider-Man dialogue, right? The common which I say, more power comes more responsibility. So absolutely, cloud, AWS you talk about, allows you to democratize and monetize your data more. The, the example which I gave, right? If you talk about in the old, if someone, maybe your parents or someone also from me from IT industry standpoint, they'll tell you like they were leveraging SQL Server or maybe some sort of a dashboards, right? But if you see now, there are machine learnings, there are things like SageMaker, there are things like Amazon QuickSights, there are a lot of things what you do. You derive like things like patterns from the data. There are data scientists, data analysts, lot of different personas, lot of different services and different tools have been provided by the cloud, and not just AWS but different other cloud platforms. They do provide different means and motive, so you can start more leveraging of your data, right? Data has become that new oil. Now that's where it is very important that this cloud provider, specifically if I talk about today's podcast context like AWS, it's very important that it also provides different data security and governance services, so the consumer who are leveraging AWS services are also being secured and are securing their data to ensure that the right governance posture is there, right? So there are different services what AWS also do provides, like such as AWS Lake Formation you talk about, AWS Data Zone you talk about, or AWS IAM, AWS KMS for encryption. There are different services AWS been providing it to make sure that who are the different consumers who are leveraging infrastructures, different AWS services, can also achieve data governance in a very simplified way. So they are not leaving this dot open and which leads to data compromise. But please make sure that when you talk about data governance on the cloud, it's a shared responsibility. You cannot just ask AWS that no, since I am leveraging your cloud, so it's your responsibility. Absolutely not. They are more responsible, more from an infrastructure perspective, but things like your data needs to be encrypted, who should have what kind of accesses, it's your responsibility. AWS have no idea of it. So that's why AWS do provides these different services to accelerate solving your business use case. But again, do make sure it's a shared responsibility.
Yeah, right. Like that can be a very efficient approach. Now, Sanchit, now tell us about some of the common challenges businesses face in managing data governance on AWS, and how can they overcome these challenges?
Absolutely. I've seen different kinds of, in the entire spectrum, I would say I've seen different kinds of customers across industry, right? Some are very scared from day zero itself. And it's not just because of them, it's because of the compliance regulations which they have as a part of the industry, right? We all know healthcare, the common example. So there are different customers you will see in different kind of spectrum of governance or different kinds of compliances. Like when you talk about PII, PHI, SOC 2, ISO, there are a lot of different compliances are there. I won't bore you going to into detail of that compliances, but exactly the important part is you need to learn that the data governance is just like how you're wiring, right? When you're building your new house, you need to add those different data pipelines, right? For water flow, you need to add a pipelines. You need to add wires for the electricity flow, right? But you cannot start adding your socket on day one. You just add that as a fundamental foundation strategy. So as and when you start scaling your house, building your house, different floors and all, you carry it forward. So as and when you're done, after 2 years, 3 years down the line, you're done with your entire construction journey, the entire building of it, then you can put your sockets, you can plug your gadgets, and then you can see the electricity and all. But if you don't wire it at the day zero, you will not able to see the results, right? Now what the mistakes many people try to do, either they will try to put all bells and whistles on day one itself. No, I want to be compliant from day zero, or I do not want to be compliant from day zero. Now you cannot have a kind of like binary answer to it, like zero and one. You need to have some sort of a gray strategy, because when you start anything on the cloud, there is a lot of pressure you have from business to prove that what you're building on the cloud or what you're developing in the new platform or new thing on the cloud is working. And in an agile fashion, you give them some prototype outcome. So you not only have an acceleration pressure that you accelerate your outcome, so you cannot miss data governance, nor you can try to boil your ocean. So somewhere you need to come to the middle ground of it, that you try to lay down the foundation strategy, which absolutely help you to scale to the next level. So that you need to come up that middle ground strategy, that what it looks like. And that middle ground strategy, you cannot have like one strategy which will work for all the industry in the world. No, absolutely, that is driven from the type of workload, the kind of industry where you are, the kind of personas you are into, and also the kind of tools and services which you are planning to use. Like things like, for example, many times customer wants to leverage AWS native services like leak formation and data zone. So absolutely, that simplified. Sometimes you want to use some third party product on AWS, so the strategy is shift from that perspective. But the whole idea is you need to draw a kind of a metrics when you're designing it, and that metrics needs to factor the industry, the personas, the use case what you're solving, and the tools and services. And then you need to come up how much proportion you need to define that particular governance posture on day zero. So nor you're completely missing it, nor you're trying to overkill it, and you get to the middle ground which you keep evolving it. And as you when you start building around and your team itself get mature, that is where you see that foundation journey getting concrete and you see the right governance posture. So that's where I see most of the folks failing around is not because of lack of tools or lack of understanding. It's either over expectation or completely under expectation of not doing it.
Nicely explained, Sanjit. Now, let's talk about AI as AI and machine learning becomes more prevalent. Like, so what role does AWS plays in ensuring ethical use of data?
Absolutely. That's the reason I said at the first question
Hmm.
itself that this is the right topic for me to
Yeah.
talk about, because generative AI has been a part of our life. Absolutely. I'm not sure I'll see and keep hearing a different myth of generative AI workloads are not going to productions, or people are unable to define the business ROIs. I'll keep those topics aside from this podcast. But somewhere, if we see anywhere, right from writing a description, or maybe writing a kind of from a college kids perspective, writing their assignments, which they should not be, but they start doing it, or maybe anything just to validate whether whatever the thesis or the email what you're writing is making sense. Generative AI has become a part and parcel of life, right? But that's a good part of it. But if you see the bad part or the risk side of the things is, you need to be mature enough to leverage the generative AI in what form and what shape. Like I've heard different kinds of hacks all like around it. Someone uploaded the minutes of meeting on the generative AI. Someone uploaded some sort of a medical reports to get around it. So you need to be mindful of what data you're uploading it. Now, sometimes it becomes very difficult that you can educate the millions and billions of people who are leveraging generative AI. So that's where those guardrails are very important. Guardrails such as the data what you are uploading to generative AI is staying within your environment, within your virtual network on the cloud. Or there are certain kinds of guardrails where it detects that okay, you're uploading this data, or that data stays within your premise so it doesn't go out of it. So those kinds of hybrid solutions are very important on the cloud, and that's where I see AWS has come up something called as Amazon Bedrock, which is what you can deploy within your VPC. So I would not say that is 100% safe and you can upload your financial in a credit card pin. Absolutely not. But it is better than leveraging an open platform, and that's where it's important that AI, as and when it's helping to accelerate your business, you as an individual, but you need to make sure that it is powered by right governance, right data security, and foundation strategy. So you need to be mature enough to leverage this platform, but as well as mature enough to leverage it right way. The best example could be the credit card. When credit card got into it, many people got hacked, got frauded, but now people are mature as in time goes that you what are the things you need to do it. So same you need to be very mindful when you're leveraging generative AI, that it is there for the boom of the mankind, but that boom doesn't start biting you in a negative way.
Yeah, that's really great. So now looking ahead, what trends or innovations do you see shaping the future of data governance on cloud platform like AWS?
Absolutely. And I have seen this already have starting around what was my thought when I heard generative AI last year, that how it can help it, right? And that's where exactly I was talking about that. I am not sure that whether generative AI, what kind of business impact or ROI in terms of revenue it can do it and what that metrics look like. But if I talk about small things, which I absolutely was looking forward to it and it has already started doing, things such as I don't want to be a technical SQL data engineer who knows SQL. I should be able to type, give me the list of all the products or the sales and the forecast of all the products. And the generative AI should able to run those queries and give me the response of that one. So I do not have to be a data engineer to do that, right? Which is going to help a lot of CFOs and the business guys. Now, so in order to do that, if we take the first question which I answered, when you start democratizing your data more, it is very important that there is a governance which is backed by that governance. So generative AI cannot solve just the consumption part of it. It also has to solve the back end layer and the guardrail of it. Like things such as when someone is filing the query, does that person has the access to fire the query? Or what does a business glossary look like? This is all driven from metadata, MDMs, business glossaries, all kinds of internal engineering function that gets into it. And then you have then top of that governance layer, which packages all, and then you have the consumption. So generative AI has been penetrating on the layer one, which is more on the consumption. I will be very happy to see how it goes to layer two, layer three, layer four. So it solves the engineering problem too. And AWS has already started going towards the layer two and three standpoints by leveraging data zone, like having their bedrock or the machine learning capability, LLM capability with their data zone. So you can automatically generate the business glossaries, which also becomes very important, specifically industries such as insurance, where they have no idea how long this data would be in there. And as system evolves, new system gets into it, the schema changes. So managing that business glossary also becomes very difficult next. If I talk about the data which was maybe in 1980s and 1970s versus today. So you cannot have that consistent business glossaries. So those small applicability of large language model LLM with AWS services has already started doing that. But how we can scale this further to simplify maybe a life of data stewards or maybe a CISO, those are the things which I would look forward as an innovation where generative AI is literally solving different personas, and then you more focus, which is helping your business case studies rather than still focusing more on the core engineering. You still have to do it. I'm not saying it's going to completely eradicate that process, but how it simplify you as those different personas of security.
Yeah, that's great. So, thank you, Sanchit, for those insights into data governance. And it was great having you on the show. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Join us next time on Data Analytics Podcast as we continue exploring the cutting edge of technology. Until then, stay informed and keep innovating. Thank you,
Thank
Sanchit,
you.
once again.
Thanks, Prerna. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Multi Cloud. And as Prerna said, stay safe, and join for the next podcast. See you then. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.